Hello, family. Oh, do you know, I just learned that we have more than family watching us. We have good friends. I learned that we have Jane and Leah and Grant and Keith and Sierra that have joined us in these lessons. So welcome. And if you're just now joining us, you are welcome to make a little character house. It doesn't have to look just like this. Dallin made a character house that was an A-frame, and Alice made a treehouse character house. But the purpose of that is to write on the house all of the things that we learned about, so that you will have it forever and you can remember these lessons. And also have a notebook to write these lessons in. If we think it and listen and write, we'll be able to remember them. And then we need to practice them. Once we hear about them and learn about them, it's important that we try to practice these character traits. So what are character traits? A person who has a strong moral character is a person who blesses other people, who blesses the lives of those that he lives around, or she lives around. Character are the things that we have inside of us that automatically help us do things that are right. And that's why we're learning these character traits, is so that we can be better people. So we've been talking about self-control. And I want to tell you a story that happened yesterday. Yesterday was our conference, and I was able to sit by Cody. And Cody came and sat by me, and he showed me this bag of cereal that he had. It wasn't quite like this, but it was very similar. And he says, "Grandma, my mom says that this cereal has to last the whole 2 hours of conference. When should I eat it?" And I could tell that Cody wanted to eat it right now, right then. But he knew that if he did, he'd be sorry. So we talked about it, and I says, "Well, Cody, why don't you save it for 1 hour? And then 1 hour conference will be halfway over with, and it will be just the right time." So I gave him my watch. I put my watch on his little arm, showed him how when the big hand and the little hand were both straight up on 12, that would be halfway through conference. And so he was content with that. He'd take his cereal and look at it every once in a while, and then he'd set it down, and then he'd look at the clock, and he waited the whole time until it was 1 hour past conference, halfway through conference, and then he was able to eat his little cereal snacks. Do you know what that's called? That's called discipline. He self-disciplined. He controlled himself, even though he really wanted it. Remember these words down here? Just because I want it does not make it right. And he controlled himself, and that's called self-control, self-discipline. Let's remember this word, moderation. What would Cody be if he had eaten the whole cereal? This is moderation. This is excessive, too much, and that is not good. So the two principles that we're talking about are self-control and moderation. And today we're going to learn something, a new principle that goes along with this. But I'm going to teach this to you by telling you a story. So last spring, the pandemic came, And Grandpa and I weren't able to do any of the things that we usually do, visiting the family, going to the temple, going to church. We were just homebound. We were self-quarantined. So we decided we were going to build a garden. You know, this house is quite new, and so we've never had a garden spot. So Grandpa went out and he rototilled this way, and then he rototilled this way, and then he rototilled this way, and we fertilized, and we just worked that ground. And then we put up a fence, and it had to be really tall because we have deer here, and the deer jump over the fence and can get in the garden. But we had to make that fence tall enough that the deer could not get over it. We just worked really hard and built this fence, and then we not only made it tall, we buried it under the ground about a foot. Why would we do that? Why would we have to bury it? The rabbits could dig under, and so we had to protect the garden from the rabbits also, and that just took so much work. And then we leveled the garden, and come March, it's time to start planting the seeds, beginning of March, after we had the rows all ready. And this one day in March, it was getting late in March, and I knew that I needed to get these spring vegetables in. And it was cold and it was windy. But I just was strong, and I went out there and I put those potato seeds in the ground, and I planted the peas and the onions and was able to get that done. And then instead of walking away and thinking, okay, everything's good, we still had to water it and cultivate it and weed it. And then we had to go water it again and weed it again. And when it was time to plant tomatoes, I went and put a little fertilizer in it and put things down in the ground and put the tomato plants in. And then I would fertilize around the individual plants, and it just worked and worked and worked every single day, so hard. And when I put the seeds in, there's another word for planting. It's called sowing. Not like sewing like you do with the needle and the thread, but when you put seeds in the ground, it's called S-O-W. And I was sowing those seeds in the ground. So come about the end of June, the 1st of July, I want to show you what happened. Can you see that garden? Look how beautiful that is. That's before a lot of the tomatoes and vegetables were formed on it, but it's just gorgeous. It was just green. And then come the end of August, the 1st of September, we started harvesting. We started reaping. Another word for harvesting and picking the vegetables, that's called harvesting. Another word for that is called reaping. And let me show you this picture. Look at that watermelon. 20 pounds. That I took it in and weighed it, and it was 20 pounds. And I was so excited, and it not only was big, it was delicious. It's one of the most delicious watermelon I've ever eaten. So, what does this have to do with character traits? Let me tell you what this is called. It's called the law of the harvest. And that means we reap what we sow. Remember that S-O-W? That means plant. And reap means to harvest, to pick the vegetables and be able to eat them. So, what does that have to do with a character trait? This principle is the same with life. If there's anything that we want to accomplish in life, we have to work really hard. We have to plant the seeds in the spring, and then we have to water and cultivate and weed and water again to be able to reap the vegetable. And that's the same with anything we want to do in life. Remember last time we talked about Abby? When the pandemic hit, instead of sitting home and watching television and eating snacks all day, she was up first thing in the morning, going to the basketball hoop and shooting for an hour, basket after basket, and then she went running. And now because of that, she's able to harvest the great skill of being a good basketball player. And that works with not only sports, but any skill we want to learn. If we want to be a good sewer or a good mechanic or a good hunter or a good cook, anything that we really want, we have to start at the very beginning and every single day work hard and practice. Arts, music, playing an instrument. I know Jason's learning how to play the ukulele. Kinley's learning how to play the piano. We have to just work really hard. Sawyer with baseball. And also with our social skills, not just the physical things, but the emotional and social things. If we want to be a good friend, we have to work really hard every single day. If we want to be a good sister or a good brother or a good child to our parents, we have to pay the price. We have to sow the seeds by being kind and sharing and helping and serving. And then we will have the reward, reap the harvest of having friends and having a good relationship with the people around us. So this is called we reap what we sow. The rewards will come what we work on and what we try to accomplish. Now, there's something really important about this principle, and that is we cannot cheat. There are no shortcuts. We have to pay the price if we want to have the reward. There were no shortcuts in raising my garden. Oh, look at Grandpa and I are still eating a variety of squash and potatoes and onions, and we have the canned vegetables that I canned in the fall after our garden was all ready to harvest, all ready to reap, and we're still eating that. But I could not make any shortcuts, and I couldn't cheat. I couldn't go to Walmart and get plastic plants and stick them in the ground and hope that they would grow. And I couldn't think, oh, I would really like an ear of corn. I had to plant the seeds, and then I had to work really hard in able to get that corn. So in anything we want to do, no shortcuts, can't wish, no cheating, and we have to work really hard. I want to end with a story on this subject, and I want, as you listen to this story, think about what lessons you can learn from this story. Can you guess what it would be? If I'm talking about gardens and reaping what we sow, what would the story be? Did you guess it? The Little Red Hen? Once upon a time, a little red hen lived on a farm with a dog, a pig, and a cow. The little red hen grew flowers. The dog, the pig, and the cow lazed about in the sun. They ate and slept and watched the little red hen work in her garden. Now remember, you're going to tell what lessons you're going to learn from this story. The little red hen scratched the ground every morning looking for her breakfast. One day she dug up some grains of wheat. Look, she squawked to the other animals. If we plant this grain, we'll have bread. Who will help me plant the grain? Asked the little red hen. Not I, said the dog. I'm gnawing this bone. Not I, said the pig. I'm stirring the mud. Not I, said the cow. I'm swatting flies with my tail. That's an important job. The little red hen sighed a little sigh. I guess I'll have to plant it myself, she said. And she did. What's the other word for planting that we've been talking about? Sowing. Sowing. All summer long, the little red hen watered and weeded her wheat, but the dog, the pig, and the cow always said they were too busy to help. By the end of the summer, the wheat stood tall and golden. It was ready to cut and thresh. Who will help me cut and thresh the wheat? The little red hen asked the other animals. Not I, said the dog. It's nap time. Not I, said the pig. There are new apples to eat in the orchard. Not I, said the cow. I'm chewing my cud. The little red hen sighed a big sigh. I guess I'll have to thresh it myself, she said. And she did. Threshing means to cut it. She cut the wheat with her sharp beak. Then she tied it into bundles and shook loose all of the grain. The little red hen loaded the wheat grains into a wheelbarrow. It would be nice to have some help pushing this to the mill, she thought. Poor little red hen doing it all by herself. Who will help me take the grain to the mill? The little red hen asked the other animals. The mill is where they take the little kernels of grain that you get off of your grain stock, and then the mill grinds it up into flour. Or your mamas probably have mills at home that they can grind their wheat. That's what Grandma does. No, said the dog, I have to guard the farm. Not I, said the pig. I can't walk that far. Not I, said the cow. I would get lost. The little red hen humped a little hump. I guess I'll take it myself, she said, and she did. At the mill, the miller poured the grain between the millstones. The stones turned round and round, grinding the grain into soft, powdery flour. The road back to the farm was dusty and the wheelbarrow was heavy, but the little red hen forgot her tired wings every time she imagined how scrumptious her fresh bread would taste. When she arrived back to the farm, she asked the other animals, "Who will help me bake some bread?" What are they going to say? Not I, said the dog. I don't know how to cook. Not I, said the pig. I have to curl my tail. Not I, said the cow. I'm too big for the kitchen. The little red hen sighed a big sigh. I guess I'll have to bake it myself, she said. And she did. The little red hen made bread dough by mixing the flour with some salt, water, and yeast. After the dough rose, she put it in the oven to bake. Soon a warm, fragrant smell filled the farmyard. The little red hen pulled the loaf out of the oven. The outside of the bread was crusty and golden brown. The little red hen knew the inside would be white and chewy and delicious. Who will help me eat the bread? Said the little red hen to the other animals. What are they going to say? I will, said the dog, watching the farmer's hungry work. I will, said the pig. That wonderful smell makes my mouth water. I will, said the cow. I'm finished with my nap. What's the little red hen going to say? What should she say? The little red hen shook her head. No, you won't, she said. Why not? Asked the other animals. You would not help me plant the grain, said the little red hen. You would not help me cut and thresh the wheat. You would not help me take the wheat to the miller. You would not help me bake the bread. So you are not going to help me eat the bread either. I will eat it myself. Look at their faces. And she did. Okay, pause this video a minute and then talk among yourselves what lessons you've learned today from this and from the little red hen. Same principles here. And then come back. Okay, did you learn that we reap what we sow? Whatever we put our life into and we work really hard on, we will get the rewards. Another lesson is, if we want anything, we have to work really, really hard and do it really well. And the last thing, did you talk about laziness? Laziness, it never accomplishes anything. It's important that we pay the price and do the work. Always remember how much I love you, and always remember how wonderful you are. That's a truth.